Here we go. Welcome in to the FireZone show. Back at you. Season ending, regular season ending anyway for the Ravens. Obviously, playoffs about to start. The teams that are in are moving on. Unfortunately, the Ravens were not one of those teams. Had an opportunity there in that last game against the Steelers. Had some other things break their way around the league, but they weren't able to take care of their own business. But like so many other games this year, it came down to the end. So we're going to jump into that and then maybe just kind of take a little look into some off-season kind of topics. But before we do all of that, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, recent birthday boy himself, Dennard Melton. Hey, Dennard, how you doing, man?
I'm good, sir. I'm living a dream out here of nothing.
A year wiser. A
year wiser. 2 years running in a pandemic. It's been real.
Hey, and those of us that are here to tell of it, real talk, that's nothing to take lightly. I mean, it's been a serious situation for 3 years now. So those of us that are here and healthy enough to still do, that's something to be thankful for. So, birthdays always make me a little bit sentimental, especially now that I'm 46. I guess I never used to think about them that way when I was younger, but now, like, each year I'm like, ooh, glad I made it to another.
You just keep telling me I'm old. I'm like, no, I'm not.
State of mind. It's a state of mind. That's it. Don't listen to your body. Ignore what your body's telling you.
Sometimes listen to your body because it's probably telling you stop.
Yeah, that's true. On a serious note, yeah, real talk, serious. Like, take care of yourself, man. You need to see your doctor regularly, get things checked out. If you're feeling something don't feel quite right, don't put that off. Go get that looked at, checked out.
Don't be ashamed to go see your doctor, please.
Absolutely. I don't even want to joke about it. I'm glad you called me. I don't even want to joke about that.
Yeah.
That's serious. That's real life stuff right there. So yeah, anybody out there that's listening, whatever it is, you are not a doctor, right? So get up and make an appointment with somebody. Yeah, go see somebody who knows what they're doing and what they're talking about. And if they tell you it's nothing, yeah, okay, you were right. It was nothing. Wasn't nothing to be worried about. But you don't want to run that risk. So there's our PSA. All right. Well, I guess we could talk about the Ravens and this last game, and maybe they needed to go see a doctor. I don't know. On offense, anyway, maybe. I thought the defense played pretty well in this game, and that's where we're going to focus as we always do. So, we won't throw no shade at the offense, but
we can.
No, you can do whatever you want. If you want to, please, the floor is yours.
It's not shade. It's just I think and I hope people realize that one game doesn't make a career, doesn't make a season, doesn't make anything. It's just one game, one series, however you want to look at it. So, yes, Mr. Hundley, he is an adequate quarterback who could probably win you a game or two in a crunch where he was supposed to be this season. The fact that Lamar was out longer than 5 weeks tells me that ankle was more than just bruised, probably broken somewhere, hairline fracture, something. A little bit more than a sprain. We're just going to go from there. But I think you recognize an offense that never had an identity throughout the entire year after the running backs went down. And you saw that not only on the offensive side of the ball, but to transition to the defensive side of the ball. Because, yes, they played well the last part of the season defensively. But who were they? who are the 2021 Baltimore Ravens defense? I still can't answer that question for you at the end of the season. That's worrisome. That's troublesome. And I think if you're Harbaugh and you're looking back on the season, I would say you lost your identity as a defensive football team.
And they're going to have many questions to answer with respect to that identity, because it's, the players and the coaches together who create that identity, who make up that identity. But really focusing on the players, you know what? Let me pause, because that's more of a like the off season thing. Let me pause right there. I won't jump into that. We'll stick in the game for a minute.
Yeah,
I'm going fast forward. Got some guys back for this game, have been, over the last 2-3 games, after the second Bengals game, where it was like everybody was out with COVID and various other things. So got some guys back in this game. So, you had many of your guys that you've had throughout this season, of course, not your Peters and your Marlon Humphreys and stuff like that, but Jimmy Smith, Tavon Young, had your guys up front back, except for Adafe Owe. He missed another game with the foot issue, but Justin Houston back, all those guys. So I would say for the majority of the game, they contained that Steelers offense, really. And then sort of like we saw in the first game, and I guess really sort of like we see throughout these matchups at times when they don't go the Ravens' way, they do tend to have that good half or even good 3 quarters or even good 4.5 quarters. And then Ben does what Ben does, and they just start making a play here and a play there, and they do just enough to get the win. And that's how I really felt like it came out in this game. It was like stuff really started to kind of turn in the second half, really fourth quarter, really, and it was even into overtime.
Well, if you look at recent history, when the Ravens should win football games, they should have won this football game.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. When they're in the games with the Steelers and they get in situations where they're up 13-7 with a chance to put the nail in the coffin. They go up and score there and go up 20-7. I don't think the Steelers come back. The fact, I believe they went up 16-6, 16-7, or somewhere along those lines, where they could have literally put the chokehold on the Steelers. And that was it. It was the Steelers went down, scored. I think there was 3 and out, and the Steelers went back down and scored another touchdown, and that was it. So it's just like you went in overtime, and you knew what the script was when probably 9 minutes left in the game, where the Ravens couldn't move the football, and you're just waiting for the Steelers to figure it out.
Yeah, going into not going in, but in the third quarter, Murray, like early in the third quarter, Murray rips off that 46-yard run TD. They go up 10-3. A little bit later, Steelers get a field goal, so they're still up 10-6. So going into the fourth quarter, you got that 10-6, and then Steelers go on that drive, and Claypool gets the touchdown. Now they're up. Then, the Ravens drive kind of towards the end of the fourth quarter there to tie it up with Tucker in the field goal, and then, weren't able to do anything with their first possession of overtime, punt the ball away, and then the Steelers go down the field. Had a couple opportunities, couple third downs, a fourth down in there. We'll probably talk about that a little bit. Was it the fourth down? Was the play where Board was involved? And third.
It was the third down where it was third and what? It was third and 8 or third and 9 or something like that. And he decided to jump something that wasn't even there. And they literally just threw it. I think it was Cooper Kupp literally on the on a line or something, and he was off to the races. I'm done with Mr. Board, by the way. So thank you.
I had my feelings. About that, and it's a shame on many levels because obviously they don't get into the playoffs. That's the first level that it's a shame on. But one of their better, just to touch on the offense for another quick sec, one of their better rushing games of the season. I want to say their second best rushing game. You run for 249 yards. Murray went for 150. Huntley puts up 72. Freeman had 21, but he got dinged up, so he probably didn't get a chance to contribute as much. But 249, I think they only put up one more. I think the Chiefs is what I'm looking at. They had 251 in that Chiefs game. So good rushing game. Like you said, by all accounts, it's a game that they were in control of for the bulk of the game, and you really felt like they should have came out of it with a win. But it really came down to, like you've been saying all season, a couple of plays, a couple of drives, couple of plays, and it didn't go their way again. And it had to be tough. And these last 5-6 games had to really be rough because this is not a group, particularly since Lamar's been the quarterback. This is not a group that's used to losing. Certainly not 5-6 games in a row. They ain't lost 5 games. What were they last year? I got to look at their record last. Certainly remember 2019. They only lost 2. I think they lost 6 last year, not in a row, but I mean just overall record. Or were they?
Yeah.
Were they better than that? They were 11-5. 11-5. So I take that back. So yeah, 6 games in a row is not something that they're accustomed to. This particular group. So it had to be brutal. I know, and we know they had the injuries. And that's a huge factor because these were key guys. This wasn't just like any guy that was out. But as you probably heard it said, obviously you played and coached. No explanations, no excuses.
It was this group needed all of this. They came out like rock stars. They got over the hump by winning a playoff game last year, and they're probably thinking in their minds that they're ready to ascend.
Taking the next step. Yeah.
What they didn't really realize that they never went through the struggle. And when you start up here, and this is for any sport, football, basketball, whatever, you start here, there's only one way. There's only one way this party's going to end. It ain't going to go back. It's got to crash and burn first before everyone starts to realize that everyone has to pull on the rope. Everyone has to be on the same page. And if you're not, guess what this offseason is going to be? You're going to be gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just
got to get guys all pulling on that rope together, and
is that feeling of dejection and everything that comes along with this season. But you had to feel all the feels. You had to feel
the feels.
What it was necessary to lose those games, those plays that you said, hey, they didn't matter, they didn't count. Well, guess that 3rd and 6 that you didn't get, guess what it mattered? That pull that you only got a shoulder on that guy, guess what? He making a play in the backfield. Now we got a punt instead of Tucker taking a 56. Those little things, they start to add up, and then you have games that you lose by 1 point for the rest of the season. It's just like, if we'd have made those plays during the game, and not only that, but if we were mentally tougher in practice, if we did the little things in the building, maybe we would have been a little more successful. So you've got the environment. Now, who's going to be the guy? Who is going to be the guy who's willing to go in there and tell people, you know what? You didn't play very well last week. And I don't care if you like me or not. I'm going to tell you. And you're going to tell me when I play wrong and didn't play well last week. I don't think there's enough of those guys in the building.
That's a good point. This is kind of a fresh example too, in my mind, because the college football natty, we just saw that Monday night with Georgia beating Alabama, and there was a play, actually a couple plays in that game. A guy we're probably going to talk about sometime in the near future, their linebacker N'Kobe Dean.
I'm drooling, but yeah.
They had another linebacker in that group, guy named Channing Tindall, who's probably also going to get drafted. Probably maybe a little bit later, but he's going to get drafted too. He had a play where he busted. He made a mistake, and Dean went up to him right after that play, and you could see Dean getting on him and letting him know. And what Tindall didn't do was, like overreact or try to like shove him out of his face or like, nah, I'm not trying to hear that right now. No, he took it. He took it, he listened to it, and then he came back later on in the game and made a huge play. It was a stop. I forget where it was. Might have been down in the red zone somewhere.
Yeah.
And the first guy running up to him to congratulate him and celebrate was N'Kobe Dean. So it seems like Georgia had that culture on that defense of accountability, right?
Yeah.
I can hold you accountable, and you're going to take it, in the way that I mean it. Like, because of the culture, because of the relationship we have, how this is coming across. This ain't about me trying to show you up or embarrass you. This is about trying to make all of us better and hold all of us accountable. When you got that kind of leadership and that kind of culture, in addition to ridiculous talent like Georgia had, you're going to be a good defense.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that's what you need. And I think that lacked big time on the defensive side of football this year. Just someone who could take the defense by the throat and say, hey, like, snap out of it. Let's play. Let's play like we know how to play. And you didn't really see that. You saw when Josh Bynes came in that the defense settled down, but there still wasn't that. You said it earlier, the violence.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being violent and being physical. There wasn't violence. When you watch the Dolphins, that's violent.
Yeah.
When you watch who else? When they're rolling. Arizona, when they're rolling. That's violent. When the Rams got all their pieces going, that's a violent defense. That's not physical. That's not throwing bodies around like the Ravens do. I'm talking about guys getting met in the hole. I'm talking about guys coming across the middle and letting people know that you are there. Not so much hitting them, but being a presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just it's just part of that mentality that I think they need to continue to bring into the building.
Yeah. And when you see it, and I know people, I think, violence, physical, what's the really distinction? Just when you see it, like as soon as you see it, you're like, okay, yeah, that's different, right? That's different. And you talked about some of those teams and those defenses, and you can think about individual guys on those defenses. Aaron Donald, like, that's violent. The way AD plays, that's violent. Jalen Ramsey plays, that's violent.
Yeah, think of the Eagles' defenses from about 3-4 years ago when they would fly around and you play them in that wide 9, and you'd be like, these guys get up in your face. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, just being bullies, just pushing pockets. When Nada and all those guys there, that was violent human beings that made their presence felt at every point of a football game. Suggs, violent. You don't see that. I mean, you see flashes of that from OA, but he's a rookie. That's going to happen. You see Queen, he shows
flashes
of violence. After that, like Bowser is going to be, hopefully the Achilles tendon didn't, like, whatever.
Yeah, he just had surgery today, I think,
Right.
or today or yesterday. He put that up on his IG, so it looks like it was successful.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect very much from him until about mid-season next year,
Yeah.
if anything. But anyway, that's another discussion.
Yeah, but Chuck Clark, one of those guys. There was it the second Bengals game? Like I think maybe before that game got out of hand, he blew somebody up on the
Yeah,
sideline, like a receiver, like a ball. It wasn't it wasn't so high or so out of his wingspan that it was like uncatchable or like you get a penalty for hitting a guy like that. It was like somewhere near where he could probably get it. But I mean, just lit this dude up like he did
right.
in the game earlier this
Yep.
season. He lit a dude up, and like the fans are booing because they want a penalty. No, that's the violence that you have to play with.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
on a defense to be a really really top level defense. And the Ravens know what that looks like. I mean, in the building. But like you said, you've got these young guys who show the flashes of it, but they're young and they're still trying to grow into that. So yeah, I think we'll continue to see more of it. But you also have to probably, as you develop those young guys and bring them along and grow them into that, I think you also got to maybe bring some guys in, more established guys who
well,
they already operate that way.
yeah. Well, you know what allows guys to be violent is when things are simplified.
Yeah, there we go. That could lead into another discussion.
I'm just saying the Rams don't do very much.
Yeah. Uh, we might as well get into it right now. So the game is what it was, and like we said, we pretty much acknowledge that they played well, and I think fans obviously can think of particular plays. Queen in the backfield making plays. Our guy Brandon Stevens with another near pick. He had at least two or three this year. Those back.
How about him being able to adjust that back out the corner and hold his own
Yeah,
in a pressing
mid
situation?
game, mid game. Yeah.
Big game.
So yeah. So I mean,
Big-
look, it's not like the cupboard is bare in terms of talent, but you are going to have a lot of decisions to make as well because you got guys who, whether it's contractual or whether it's age,
Yeah,
and retirement might be in play. You're talking about Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, Jimmy Smith, just those three to start. Even Josh Bynes, who I think showed he can still play, and he still wants to play.
yeah,
But again, every year you got to make those kind of decisions. And so yeah, there's going to be some change and some shakeup on defense and on offense, and that's every year. I mean, every
yeah.
team, no team ever stays the same at the end of each season. But this could be one of the bigger changes
Oh
they've
yeah.
had in a while on that side of the ball. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, let's get into that part. Let's get into that part. You were talking about simplicity, and that speaks to scheme. And I think for the first time since he's become the defensive coordinator, I mean, there probably was some grumbling here or there along the way, but I think this year more than any I can remember since Wink took over as DC, started to hear more of that. Grumbling got louder. It turned into more than just grumbling, where people were kind of really starting to question some of the play calls. Look, Greg Roman, that's a whole nother question. We won't deal with that, but they've been calling for my man's head for a while. But I think even this year with Wink, you had some people starting to question the timing of some of these aggressive calls, and I know you for not just this year, but for a while have had some concerns just about the scheme overall, the structure.
Yeah.
What do you hang your hat on? Like you said, who are you?
Who are you?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what do you think the move is uh, with regards to Wink? Look, there's going to be opportunities, head coaching opportunities this year, as there are every year, and so maybe that decision kind of is made for you. It's taken out of your hand if you're John Harbaugh. But if it's not, and you're the head coach, what do you think?
First and foremost, Wink's scheme works well with veteran guys. Now, the problem is the Ravens hadn't had a veteran group in quite some time on the defensive side of the ball. And that's not going to happen anytime soon because you're going to be pouring resources into your offense to continue to support Lamar.
Yeah.
So,
You thought you were going to have one coming into this season.
yes.
It's a relatively veteran group.
Yes. So the scheme is old. I think they have to do what they did with the offense. When Mordenwig was finally escorted out and someone finally convinced Harbaugh that the West Coast offense would not work in Baltimore whatsoever, they decided to blow it all up. And once they had Lamar, they had a plan. So I think going into this offseason, they've always preached about having continuity as a defense and running the same schemes they've had for years and things along the sort. I think it's that time. If you want to stay in a 3-4, that's fine. But you have to join us in 2022. We can't live in the 2005, 6, 7, 8 world where 3-4 defenses were everything because you had safeties who could play down in the box like a Palomalu and a Reed and a Landry and whoever other safeties we had for forever who could just drop down the box and play those positions because guess what? You had Ed Reed, you had the human eraser figuring out everything. So you don't have that anymore. You don't have guys at levels that can cover up mistakes like a Suggs, like a Lewis, like a Reed. So the Ravens have been looking for that, and it's just you have turned into a gimmick. And it's very easy to prepare for a gimmick. You just have to be patient. You just have to be willing to be patient because eventually you're going to get them in something, and it happens in every game. 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, you're like, Wink's coming, and we've been saving this play. Here it is. Execute it. We're going to go score a touchdown. And like clockwork. You knew when Wink was coming. You knew what type of pressure was coming. You knew where the hole was. And Harbaugh said it a couple times this year. Like, we just became predictable. And I think defensively, you just know. You know where they're coming from if you're a veteran quarterback and you're able to throw out. So how do you solve that? And how do you maximize the type of players that you're going to be coming in? Because you're going to be spending a lot of draft capital on your defense because you're going to be investing money into your offense. You got to simplify things. You've got to allow guys to play fast, physical, violent football on defense. And if you simplify things on defense, things just get easier on offense because now you have an identity. We're going to run it down your throat, and we're going to play free, fast, physical defense on the other side of the ball. Instead of playing risk on both sides of the ball, let's have one side of the ball where we know what we're going to get. We know who we are, who our basic identity is. And go from there. We got to play complementary football. And we just, as the Ravens just haven't done that in the last couple of years because we've never had an offense like this.
Yeah.
So if you've never had an offense like this in your tenure and you can go up and down the field and score 35 points, that's great. But now you're leaving your defense out to dry. Yeah. So I just think I don't think the scheme works anymore. I think it's just time to move on.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mentioned the college national championship, and I think it was on the Move the Sticks podcast. They were sort of related to what you said about kind of becoming gimmicky almost on defense to a certain extent. And they were like, you can't trick your way into a championship. Like once you get to that point in the season where it's good on good, right? And you're talking about the best teams playing each other and trying to either get in the dance or are in and are trying to, play in that championship game, win that championship game. You can't trick your way to a championship, right? You got to strap it up and play ball. And it kind of made what you were describing kind of made me think about that. And then if you just look around the league too, and I know it goes in cycles. It goes in cycles on offense. It goes in cycles on defense. But you talked about how, it was a different game back when you talked about, guys like Ed and Ray were here. Teams were running the ball more, and not that they didn't throw the ball, but a team might have one good receiver, maybe two, like one really good receiver and maybe another like complimentary solid guy, but you weren't having on a regular basis to face Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, a tight end who can catch the ball a little bit, a running back who can come out of the backfield. You were having to deal with that on a week in and week out basis. And so you need different kinds of guys now to compete with that. And the part I mentioned about the league going in cycles, whether it's offense or defense, you're seeing more too high stuff, more too high structures starting to come back into vogue now. Not that that's new, that's been here before. Right. But people kind of got into that Seattle cover 3 1 high world because, people say that the NFL is a copycat league, and it absolutely is. Whatever team is having the most success, whatever team is winning a championship that year, everybody looks at them and looks at what they're doing. It's like, okay, can we do that? Maybe we can take some of that and play in that way. And like, cover 3 kind of took over the league. Cover 3, cover 1 kind of took over for a while. And now the last couple of years, you talked about the Rams, where they started with Brandon Staley was their DC, Vic Fangio. It's funny. I'm thinking about his comments after the Ravens game. But he's a guy that's like to live in that too high safety world wherever he's been around. And it's starting to come back a little bit. And even in Pittsburgh, you've seen them do a little more of that over the last, they've kind of gone from Blitzburg to like Zonesburg over the last couple of years. And they're going to make you, these kinds of defenses, they're going to make you go the long, hard way.
Yeah.
They're not giving nothing deep, nothing cheap. And if you can put together 13, 14 play drive on them and score a touchdown,
do it 3 times.
Tip the cap. We don't think you can do that.
Nope. We don't think you can do it 3 times. You can do it 3 times, you deserve to win the football game.
Yeah.
But
and so
I'm playing the odds. I believe you cannot do it, and therefore I can keep you to 17 points.
Yeah. And if you have a solid, sound structure that's going to force an offense to have to put together that many plays in a drive to even have a chance to score, and then you've got talent in addition to that, then you feel confident in that, hey, you can't do that to me 3 times. It's not going to happen. So, the Ravens, I think, to your point, that's something that you got to take a long, hard look at. I'm biased, so it's hard for me to say anything like not wanting to see Wink here or whatever. I'm very biased, but doing this show with you this year and listening to you talk about him, not only this year, but even before we started doing the show, going back into last year, it's like somebody plants a seed in your mind, and like it might not like sprout immediately, but it's in there. And every time you watch a game, it starts to, come out of the shell just a little bit more and just a little bit more. And then, it's like when you plant something and you don't see anything for weeks, and then you see that first little thing break through the soil, right? And it's shooting up. It started to grow in my mind. It's like an inception kind of thing for people who see something in my mind.
The simple idea.
Yeah.
We must go.
So convincingly that I think it's my own idea. I feel like I came up with it. It's now brought me over a little bit to that side. So that's tough. That's been hard for me to admit.
And don't get me wrong. I think Wink is an amazing D coordinator. And I think wherever he ends up, if that's a head coaching job, which I think in Jacksonville he'd be, I couldn't you couldn't tell me a better fit than Jacksonville and the personnel they have and who's already down there. And
yeah, got some of his former coaches
right,
down
like
there. Coach.
Hello, like it would work as long as he got an offensive staff. That'd be a question. So,
yeah.
But at the end of the day, the scheme does not fit, like you said, this new, it's not even a spread offense. It is, I don't need one superstar. I have 5 pretty good guys.
Yeah.
And my 5 pretty good guys, I can find a matchup against your 5 okay guys.
Yeah.
I can find a matchup that I like and I'm going to abuse it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, people will talk about the injuries and like I said, I think you do have to acknowledge them because we're talking about the Bengals just because they won the division. And again, like we said, whoever is currently winning, that's kind of who you look at and try to see, okay, what do they do to get to that point. And yeah, if Humphrey was here, if Peters was here, you get a healthy Tavon Young, do you feel a little bit better about matching up with those Cincinnati guys, with those guys? Yeah, absolutely.
We're not athletic enough.
Yeah, I was going to say, but even if those guys were still there, then you still got to look at the other positions on defense. You still got to look at yourself on the defensive line, right? Yeah, you got an Owe. Yeah, you got a Ty Spouser. That's good. I like that. But then you've got Calais Campbell, Brandon Williams, Justin Ellis. You got Matabike. He's coming along. Yep. But
Brandon Washington.
Josh Bynes is like you said, is stabilizing as a presence as he was. He's not who he was athletically when he was younger. I mean, Queen obviously is very athletic. So it's like you've got something at each level in terms of athleticism. You've got a player at each level of the defense with some athleticism, but you need more. You need more.
So much more to compete with. You're going to need so much more to compete with Cincinnati. It's going to be scary.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to murder the middle of the field. So you have to come up with a plan. And the only plan I know of is switching to a 4-3. But we're not here to talk about that today.
That could be another offseason topic. That's one of those things that I think is good because you can set it aside just in its own show and really, really go deep on it. And we've had a couple people slide into the DMs and ask about that because I don't know why. It's kind of surprising to me, but people seem to feel like you're very pro 4-3. I'm not sure where they're getting that from.
I don't know. I don't know.
People feel like you have an affinity for the 4-3 defense.
I enjoy a good red wine. And I believe that the 4-3 is like a good red wine.
Fine wine.
Fine wine.
What's it 3-4?
Huh?
Was it like a 40? Was it 3?
it was a 43.
Quick, right? You'll get there real quick, but you might have problems later. You might have some. The red wine, you can sip it, take your time. It's going to be a very gradual, mellow feeling.
You know what the 3-4 reminds me of is when I went to college in Cancun with some tequila. It was everybody was enjoying. Everybody was at the club. You spent a couple of weeks. You talked about it for months after you got back. You reminisced about it for a couple of years with your boys in college. And then you left college, and then you thought about it like, what did I get out of that trip? Absolutely nothing.
Empty calories. We had some fun, had some good times, but we also had some things that didn't go great.
And I couldn't get rid of these fans that just kept following and telling me that I was always going to be great, and I'm 55 years old.
We might have to do maybe when we do that 4-3 show, maybe we'll make that a part of it. We'll try to compare defenses to drinks and we'll see if we can find.
Hey, we've talked about different types of shows.
Yeah, that might be a good one. I don't know if I've ever seen that one before. So that could be a first in
Yes.
football podcast. We'll see. We'll kick that.
Oh,
out.
that'd be a quality show comparing alcohol drinks to teams. Yeah. Oh, we could go across the board. Not even like football. We can do this with basketball.
Sure. Oh, this lends itself to
like the Lakers are just Jack Daniels. Like you just keep drinking it, and it don't matter. It's never gonna get any better.
Yeah. I mean, look, this could be for any. This could be subjective because everybody's kind of got their favorite. But for me, I won't say it's a favorite, but here's where I'm going with the analogy. Like I'm thinking about Golden State, right? I'm thinking about the Warriors, and for me, that was Jim Beam and ginger ale. Like I couldn't really taste the Jim Beam, so I just kept drinking it. I just kept going. You just keep going and going and going, and the Warriors just keep going. They just keep coming at you and shooting and shooting, and before you know it, you go to stand up, and you're like, oh, what? How did that hit me? I didn't feel any of that while I was drinking it. And as soon as I tried to get up, I was like, whoa, it all hit me all at once.
And then the bartender says, I got a clay lime for you.
Yeah, you just like throwing those things back because the ginger ale masked that you almost can't take it. Yeah.
I had to retire that in college. I couldn't drink that.
Then you get up. So yeah, hey, see, I think we got something here. I think we can really turn.
That's way too sneaky.
I think we can really turn that into something. Okay, I'm definitely gonna file that idea.
I mean, I feel like the Wizards are just like Bud Light.
I was gonna say if you think about, I won't throw this on the Wizards because I know they're playing a little bit better this season. But you think about bad teams, like okay, I'll take it back to football, right? And about Jacksonville this year, or the Lions. Like even when the Lions were winless, right? And they were trying to get a win. Think about like the cheapest, most nasty drink or beer. I mean, it could be like your Mad Dog 2020. It could be like
Mickey or Colt 4540.
Yeah. If you're a beer drinker, I mean, maybe it's like a Black Label or
Red Dog,
a Natty Bow. I like Natty
Bow. I like. What about Bush Light?
Yeah, Beast. Milwaukee's best, Beast.
Beast, yes.
So you could think of, when you think about the Lions and you think about the Jaguars.
I feel like
Beast.
I feel like the Ravens,
because it's got to be the watered down.
Yeah. I feel like the Ravens were like a martini, like a strawberry margarita that has such promise when you first got it at Senior Frogs.
Looks good.
And then you turned on the lights. It was a strawberry soda.
It's not what you think it was. Not what you think it is. Yeah, their season, man, it would have to be something that, like you said, that's a good analogy. That's something that's good to start, and then it changes. The longer you have it. I can't. What's a drink like that where it's good at the beginning, but then when you
Long Island, it get better.
It's better. Yes, we got to go the other way. This is something that gets worse the longer you. It gets worse. Man, I don't know. Maybe Makers. I drink a lot of Makers. When Makers is like room temperature.
What about Taco Bell?
It's food. Now food is a whole nother. We start bringing food in. Yeah. Hey, in the moment when you're eating that chalupa,
the moment, killing it. You feel good. 8-3, feeling fresh.
It's amazing.
Then you realize, you look at the receipt.
You know what that is for me? That's Five Guys. For me, when I eat it in the moment, it's like, oh, this is amazing.
Brilliant. Yes.
There's you got to answer. You got to answer for it.
All that good luck you took in the first half.
Yeah. Catches up to you.
Streak.
Catches up to you. Them Cajun fries, you're going to pay for that.
Yeah.
You're going to pay for them Cajun fries.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's how I know it's probably time to wrap this one up because we done gone.
It is. But I think we got some quality stuff for the off season.
We do. That's going to be some interesting stuff. I know we got a lot of people out there who are into the draft. And, now that the Ravens are eliminated from the postseason, people are like completely in off-season mode. They're thinking about free agency. They're thinking about the draft. I mentioned the Kobe Dean earlier. I know he's a guy you really, really like. And so we're thinking about doing a little watch kind of inspired by Cole Jackson, friend of the show, who's done a couple of live film watches on some draft prospects early on. I jumped on with him to do Jordan Davis for Georgia. I think him and James did the North Carolina tackle tonight, Ike Ikwanu. And so we're thinking about looking at Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd. They seem to be the two most highly touted inside backers in this draft. Both guys projected to go in the first round, relatively early in the first round for inside backers. Different players. I'm not comparing them to the players, but it kind of reminds me of that year that what's it, the guy Devin White and what was the other guy? Was it Bush? Bush and White came out the same year.
White. Yeah.
Just in terms of the athleticism, like I said, I'm not saying they play the same way, but just just athletes, right? Just dude at linebacker position, just flying around the field.
I haven't seen enough on Dean or the other guy, but just what I saw briefly on Dean, he just seems more physical.
Yeah, well, them Georgia dudes are violent. They got some violence down there.
Some serious violence. But here's my worry. He played behind such a dominant D line.
Yeah.
How much did he really have to?
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing it more in film on it. But that would be my worry going forward.
And I was going to say that's a really good point and a really good, I think, way to contrast those two guys. I'm not saying Lloyd had a bad D line at Utah. I don't know enough about them to say whether they were bad or good, but I know they weren't on Georgia's level.
Right.
So, and he's still flying around making a bunch of plays. So that might be a good compare and contrast just to see. Because we talked about that when we did the Patrick Queen breakdown with Coach Evans. Going through those clips and really studying those just really hit home for me. I mean, I knew it, but it just really reiterated how important a D line is to linebacker play.
Yeah.
It's critical. Critical.
You can ask Luke Kuechly himself because he had some stud muffins up front. I mean, he had Peppers, Short, who was the other D tackle who was a gorilla, and he had a DN who was just nasty. It was that Johnson. It was Johnson and Peppers with Short and whoever the other D tackle was. May have been a Hawaiian dude.
Yeah, I know Star Lutulele was there for a while.
Yeah.
But maybe even before him, he had a guy. It's on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, they had some other D tackle in there.
Right. Luke Kuechly couldn't have been Luke Kuechly without that. Ask Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis could not be who Ray Lewis was without who was in front of him.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's true. If you go through like any really, really good inside backer, take a look at their D lines. And I bet you they got some studs up there.
Why do you think the 4-3 line? Why do you think the middle linebacker in the 4-3 is the? I may be blowing smoke here, but I feel like it's literally the top linebacker in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Why? Because they had stud buffers in front of them, didn't touch it, didn't let anybody touch them for 10 years.
We remember when they kind of had a little bit of a lull in terms of the quality of guys at that spot. And he said, hey, go get me some people who will keep me clean. And they went.
And what did they do? They switched to a 3-4 because they couldn't find the people anymore.
These people, Ray.
They couldn't find them anymore. So they figured they just put people to death.
We can't find them. But if you can find them, and I think for the Ravens, I know we were getting ready to wrap this thing, so I don't want to take us down a whole nother rabbit hole. But I think if you look at some of the pieces they have, if you look at Matabike, and if you can get another D tackle in there, another stud, they got to be like a legit dude in there. And I think, Owe and Bowser, you might need to go get another in because Bowser's, in your vision of where this is going, Bowser's going to be an off the ball linebacker at times. Sometimes
he can rush the passer like he normally does, but you need to take advantage of what he does best and stop the one-dimensional nonsense. They actually did it for a game, and it was probably the best game Wink called all year. And then he said, "You know what? I don't like that. I don't like being right."
That's a shame. That's a good place to stop. So yeah, I just wanted to preview that thing with Lloyd and Nakobe Dean. We'll try to get that out soon, and I think we're going to try to do a live stream the same way, same format that Cole did, so people have a chance to interact with you.
Absolutely.
Can ask you questions, pick your brain in real time, and say, hey, what about this? What about that? So I think that'll be cool. And it'll be a first look, I think, for both of us. Because like I said, other than, when they were playing on TV occasionally, I've seen Georgia a couple times on TV. Obviously, I watched the Natty. I think I saw Utah once in the Pac-12 championship. So it'll be the first time, I think, for both of us really getting a look at those two inside backers. And I know people are probably thinking, why are we talking about inside backers? Didn't they just draft two guys 2 years ago? Hey, quiet as kept. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised. I'm not saying they're going to take them in the first round. I'm not saying that. I don't know.
I just took a quick look through the top 13. Not very many people are going to be taking defensive players. Maybe 2 or 3 off the jump. Everybody else is going to be looking quarterback, offensive line, and a lot of wide receivers, if there are any good ones at the top of the board, will be gone.
Yeah.
So the possibility of a quality individual on the defensive side I feel like will be available at 14.
Yeah, Thibodeau and Hutchinson are kind of the top defensive guys that people are thinking are going to go off the board early.
I think Hutchinson's probably going to be the number one, just by who's picking number one.
If you listen to people after watching the Natty, they're like, look, we need to go and draft Will Anderson, 31 from Alabama. We need to get him right now. He ain't even eligible. Let's just go get him and draft him and pull him into the draft. I mean, there are people who, pay more attention to that to me, and they're like, that guy, he's number one right now. He's just not eligible. He would go ahead of Thibodeau and Hutchinson if he was eligible. They think he's that good. But he's not available. So yeah, I think those two guys are probably going to go early. But hey, Ravens haven't picked at 14, and I don't know if they ever picked at 14. That's pretty.
I don't think they picked at 14, but they picked behind the Browns before, and that was 11 and 12, and then we traded with the Browns to pick Olodinada. So
I'd like to see something like that happen. I'd like to see something like that happen. Hey, Ed, to your point about getting that other piece at defensive tackle, you get you another Haloti to add to Justin Matabike, you got a nice start.
You do.
Yeah, I mean Jordan Davis. Maybe Jordan Davis is there, depending on how people feel about him. Big D tackle out of Georgia, he might be there at 14. Never know.
I'm a pass on that.
Okay. Not a big fan of Jordan Davis.
I think he's kind of on the same plane as Clowney. I think he'll make splash plays. I think he'll be a good football player. But I don't think he's going to give you what you need in terms of changing games.
Okay. So if you're picking that high, you want a game changer.
You want a game changer. I think
game changer.
Yeah. Unless you're getting a stud who's not going to, can't miss. like an offensive tackle who's going to be there for 14 years. Or,
Yeah.
Even now, I would even say a guard in the top 5 is not the way the league is going and the way defenses attack the middle of offenses. I would say guards in the top 5 is a hot commodity these days, at least in the top 10.
Hey, look back at Quentin Nelson. If you knew Quentin Nelson was going to be Quentin Nelson, you take him in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think people are willing to take those chances now in the top 15. Like, sure. I need to find me a bona fide star. If it doesn't happen, okay. And I think you got to be okay with that.
But you're swinging for the fences. You're not trying to hit no single.
No, you got plenty of those on the Ravens. You got plenty of singles. I watch the Orioles. I don't need any more singles.
I need some runs.
I need production. I need runs. I don't care how they get across the plate. I need runs. I need bodies.
Well, I feel good about what they did early last year. I think Owe and Bateman produced runs this year. I feel good. I feel good about those two.
I feel people are gonna probably crucify me, but I feel like they might have to blow up the entire second. Besides Stevens.
Yeah. Stevens
you're slow and athletic. You're slow and unathletic.
Yeah.
In 3 spots.
Yeah. Need to change that.
Or you're gonna keep giving up 40 to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we can't have that. We cannot have that.
Because they got your number. They're going to keep coming, too.
You got them, talking about getting the GAT. You got the Steelers in your locker room walking in their trap. It was so disrespectful. It was so disrespectful both times. But
you gotta love sports, though.
Yeah, like my buddy Chris said from Deep Cover Podcast, he said, hey, when you win, you get to do what you want.
And the Ravens did what they want to do in 2019, and nobody could say a word to them.
Couldn't say nothing. Now, this season, shoe was on the other foot. And that, like you said, that's what you got to love about sports. One year is your turn, next year is my turn. I mean, that's how it goes. So.
How you respond, like what Chuck said? Watch how we get back up.
Watch how we get back, man. Chuck said, I ain't got nothing else to say to y'all. I ain't answering questions. Watch how we come back. That's all. Like, watch how we bounce back.
They've been talking about that for 3 weeks.
Yeah, Chuck said, watch how we bounce back. Yeah, because Chuck, I think you see this guy kind of. It looks like easy demeanor. Dude's a competitor, like a serious competitor.
Well, I think you still have some. You still have some remnants of ET in that team. I think you still kind of feel a little bit. Little remnants of Matt Judon still hanging around too. The ghost.
Yeah. And you can tell, going back to that ET thing, the way that played out with Chuck. Chuck does not tolerate foolishness. If you're not here to be professional and do your job and be prepared, he don't have no patience for that. None. So, that's
why Tim Wills get up out here.
Yeah, but see, I like that because that's part of that culture that you were talking about. He's a guy who's going to hold people accountable. We saw him hold Earl accountable. So he doesn't care who you are or how much money you're making. He's going to hold you.
Now we just need one of those guys on offense. And I don't know who that's going to be.
Yeah, that again, that's another beauty of sports is sometimes guys can surprise you, guys who you didn't think maybe were going to grow into those roles and be that person, become that. They develop. So maybe there's somebody there that it, like you planting that seed in my head. Maybe they're about to bud. They're about to sprout.
Think about that for a second. Just look at the offense this year. Who on that offense is going to walk in the offensive meeting and tell people off?
Mm-hmm. No name comes to my mind immediately.
Not a soul.
Now I think
who's gonna go up in Lamar's face and be like, I don't care if you're making $39 million. That was a piss poor throw. That dude left about a couple of years ago.
I was gonna say though, he didn't play this year because he got hurt. But I think the guy that has the kind of attitude, just the way he carried himself, I think J.K. Dobbins has that kind of personality where he'll go up to somebody and he don't care who you are. If
Well,
you
he's an Ohio State running back. Like they just a different breed.
yeah. Well, he's definitely about, because he talked about that coming in. Remember when he wasn't getting as many carries early in the season? Like they were still giving carries to Ingram, like his rookie year, and obviously he was splitting with Gus. He talked repeatedly about how hard it was for him to wait during that time and how he really was going to the coaches and letting them know.
Give me rock.
Carries. No disrespect to Mark. He's my OG, but I need to be getting these carries. And he showed that in practice. And then he got the carries in the game and he showed it in the game. So I think he's got that kind of personality and that kind of attitude where he could be that guy on offense. I think Lamar is a fiery dude. I think he can get fiery. But his
is different though. His is emotional based. It's us Capricorns. I know where Lamar's coming from on this. It's there's a passion, there's an emotion, and sometimes your passion and emotion get in. You see red, and you don't see the logicalness of things around you until you're like out of that red mist for a second. You're like, oh, so we're natural leaders. But sometimes we need that logical person to be in our ear, telling us like, you don't have to pop off with everything. And you don't have to turn every negative into a positive. Sometimes you got to let that negative be a negative.
Right.
And I think, like you said, I think J.K. Dobbins, from his mindset, Ohio State, and what you're talking about, has that practical mindset to say, like Harbaugh says, like stack practices, one practice. Yep. And I think that's where Lamar struggles. I think that's where Hollywood Brown struggles. Is they want that wow factor. They need to see instantaneous results, and that's just not how the NFL works.
No, hey, but you talked about this year being that learning year, that teaching year, to teach you that lesson, right? You had to experience a year like this for that lesson to really hit home. Yeah, they, lost some games here and there over the last 2 seasons, but nothing like this. And so I think this one is the one that really hammers home to you just how committed and how bought in you have to be. Like injuries, hey, you can't do anything about that. Guys get injured, that happens. But when everybody is healthy enough to play, whoever is healthy enough to play, we got to all be completely bought in and dialed in. Every game, every practice, all the time, every meeting, everything. We got to be dialed. Don't mean you can't have fun. Don't mean you can't have fun. I think that's important. You got to have fun. It's a game. I mean, it's a business, but it's a game when you're out there playing. So you got to have fun. But the preparation part is what I'm talking about. I think when you're out there on Sundays, you cut it loose. But I think during the week, you gotta be dialed in. You gotta be locked in. I'm not saying they're not, but I think it can get to another level. And I think a season like this can show you, like, man, everything can look so promising, and then a couple of things can happen, and it can all go to crap. So you can't take any of this for granted. Like any season, any game, you gotta fight like it's the last, because it could be the last.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good place to end. I've said that 3 times now, and then we went on for like another 10, 15 minutes each time. But this is it. This is it. I feel, hey, this one, end of season, spend a little bit more time. But it's not the last time you'll hear from us. We're going to do a couple different things moving forward. So, again, as always, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and interacting with us during the season. This is our first season doing this. I've enjoyed every part of it, every show, all the different conversations. And man, the future is bright. There's a whole lot of things that you have kicking around in your head, plans and ideas and things you want to do. So this was just the beginning. This was absolutely just the beginning. So this is going to get bigger and better, and I think people are going to really be excited to see, where it goes. I just want to thank everybody. Big thank you, big shouts out to everybody for rocking with us, and until the next time, which, like I said, won't be long from now. But until the next time, y'all be good to each other out there, and we'll get at you later. Peace.